sometimes when what is happening in our living is so painful to be able to contain, we freeze the awareness. In a way, we freeze the love. For example, in a grief process, when there's been a death or a loss, there's a confrontation with something impossible from the level of awareness. From the level of awareness, loss is not possible. At the same time that on the level of the mind, it's happened. And the mind is desperately trying to adjust to the person no longer being alive, which is basically adjusting or trying to contain the fact that we also will die, that we're mortal, that it could happen at any moment. So at the same time as that, there's a physical unsafety happening. And this creates a shock, which means, and this is just one example of pain, that the awareness, the loving awareness, freezes in what we know as grief. A grief process. The liberation of this awareness has its own time, a sentient time. It's different from any textbook. It takes 4 months to get over a loss or whatever. It has its own time, and it will wait, if necessary, 30 years or a lifetime or generations until it's done. This is the logic of this time. Now, if it is a freezing of the loving awareness, then that means, in the same way as with the peace and with the thoughts, that it's actually composed of particles of frozen love. The block on this level, frozen awareness. So it sounds paradoxical to think a place where we're numbed or in extreme pain is made of love. But it totally makes sense, because if we didn't so much love the one that we lost, there would be no grief, there would be no shock. So in blocks in awareness, the medicine to frozen love, is loving awareness. When we move, what we tend to do, where there's a deep pain, and we just gave one example of grief, but it can be the pain of rejection, or pain around abandonment, or loneliness. What we tend to do is, because the consciousness moves very, very fast, it wants a quick fix. So it tries to avoid, fix it with the head. Let's bring peace, like this, with the thinking. And the consciousness or the mind, the mental patterns needs to be taught, and even the ego, which tries to hold everything together, to keep a form, needs to be reassured that it's worthwhile to bring loving awareness to the frozen love, to the pain. That this will do more to keep the person in form and to keep the person in shape than the escape route through consciousness. So when we have a depressed area of ourselves where awareness is constricted, allowing the loving awareness to be there also brings a kind of heat which initiates a defrosting. It begins to thaw like water, and the flow begins again. Get some clouds. The circulation, all of this vital energy is brought back into the perceptive system. It also means that we can experience an expansion of awareness rather than going between the icebergs to get to Eden. It's much more normalized in a way. So we're moving into an area of processing through feeling and feeling the feeling. Being aware of what is aware of what is aware. Letting ourselves be that. In a way, consciousness surrenders. It doesn't go anywhere, it's always there for us, but it surrenders the wheel of the bus. It begins to follow what's happening. In a way, it records, but it's passively following and diminishes so that awareness can fully open.